Hi guys, and welcome to a very special episode on the Coffin Heroes YouTube channel. I have been inundated with requests to give my thoughts on the Snyder Cup. I didn't realize my opinion was so revered or so in demand until this movie came out, and I've had several messages sent to me. I've had people getting in touch, asking my thoughts, and to be honest, it's over a week since it's been out. It's about a week and a half now. I've watched it twice. For those who don't know, with the Snyder Cut, just give you a very brief history before we get into it. But back in 2017, Justice League came out. Now, it said directed by Zack Snyder, but that's not the full story. The one that came out in the cinemas is referred to these days as Justice League, and that's because Joss Whedon stepped in to do reshoots. What had happened was Zack Snyder had started out with Man of Steel. He wanted to build a DC extended universe. This was certainly in the wake of the success Marvel had enjoyed. DC movies to that point had always been sort of self-contained. They weren't really related to anything else. You know, you think of the Nolan Batman trilogy, you can go further back to the Batman films of the late 80s and 90s. You think of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. You even think of ones that didn't do so well, things like Green Lantern. They didn't really seem that interested in building a universe where characters could dip in and out, and Marvel pretty much perfected that technique. Now, DC tried to do it, but they tried to rush it. So you had Man of Steel, which introduced the world of Superman. Then after that, you were supposed to have Man of Steel 2, but that could change into Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. So that introduced Batman to this world. It introduced Wonder Woman. And then very fleetingly, it introduced you to Aquaman, The Flash, and Cyborg. And then the idea was then to jump straight into Justice League. But from what I understand, the idea was always that Justice League was going to be a couple of movies. So it was going to have this huge arc. And as I said, they were in a little bit of a rush to do this. You think of Marvel, you think they really took their time. They did Iron Man, they did Thor, they did Captain America, they did the Incredible Hulk. Then they did the Avengers, and then they built from there. So anyone who knows me knows, regardless of them rushing into it, so to speak, I'm a big fan of the Snyder movies. You know, I think Man of Steel is excellent. I think it's a really, really inspiring movie. People talk about it being a dark Superman and this and that. He smiles about 100 times through it. He's heroic about 100 times through it. And he obviously has to make a heartbreaking choice at the end of the movie that divided audiences on the character. That's fair enough. Batman v Superman then came along. And it's a weird thing to say about a movie that's 2.5 hours long, but it's really choppy and really fast-paced and just seems concerned with getting from point A to point B. You then had the extended cut of that come out, and it just changed the whole movie. It made it 3 hours long. It was originally what Zack Snyder had wanted to put into the cinema, but of course was told, well, if it's 2.5 hours, we can do 5 showings a day. If it's 3 hours, we can only do 4. So the people above him were always thinking that, you know, all about the money, all about that opening weekends, and I suppose the competitive streak if we have to beat Marvel. So the extended edition, I'll tell anybody who listens, it improves that movie tenfold. It shows clear motivations for characters. It shows definitive character arcs and just allows the movie room to breathe. So then Justice League was to come along, and that was the third part, directed by Zack Snyder in this so-called Snyderverse. And unfortunately, halfway through filming, his daughter, Autumn, committed suicide. And Zack Snyder, he held this from everybody. He thought he could throw himself into the work, take his mind off it, but he ultimately decided that the best thing to do would be to step away, that, you know, he needed to be with his family, he needed to grieve, and so forth. So Joss Whedon came in to do some reshoots and finish the movie off. At the time, this was greeted as great news. You know, Joss Whedon so successfully, you know, launched the Avengers. But Joss Whedon was always a strange choice for me, simply because he very publicly said after Age of Ultron, the second Avengers movie, that he was burnt out on superhero universes, that he didn't really want to do it anymore. And so for him to then be in a scenario where he's jaded, and then to be put in charge of DC's flagship franchise, it always struck me as a weird decision. But anyway, so he came on board, but I always said he was in a no-lose situation. He was apparently given a mandate that the movie had to be 2 hours long, no longer, so they could fit in 6 showings a day. They wanted them to lighten the tone, which Zack Snyder has always said that part of his plan was to start off dark and, you know, characters like Batman, for example, to bring them back to redemption. So yeah, he was told a bit more colour, more humour, and under 2 hours. But I always said he was in a no-lose situation, Joss Whedon. If the movie came out and it was great, Joss Whedon saved it. If the movie came out and it was terrible, even Joss Whedon couldn't save this piece of crap. So the movie came out and was pretty terrible. I don't think you realise how terrible it is until you watch this 4-hour Snyder Cup. I should say at this point, this is completely my opinion the whole way through this. This is not me stating facts. This is not me saying this movie is amazing or this movie is terrible or whatever. This is my opinion. That I'm not stating facts. Feel free to disagree as much as you want, but I was asked to give my opinion, so here we are. So that Justice League, as it were, effectively killed the DC, interconnected universe, so to speak. I remember back then Flash movies were on the way, Cyborg movies were on the way, Man of Steel 2 was pretty much announced. And then DC started to, or DC and Warner Brothers I should always say, they decided to go in a slightly different direction where the movies wouldn't necessarily be interconnected and would stand on their own. And this has been met with quite a lot of success actually. I mean, Aquaman grossed over $1 billion and was awesome. Shazam was very, very good. It made less than that. I think it made around 600 million, but it was a much more modestly budgeted movie. So it was a success. Joker came out, won Oscars, got a great box office. And then Wonder Woman came out, but it came out sort of in the middle of a pandemic, Wonder Woman 84, and sort of got a cinema release, sort of didn't, divided critics. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was amazing or anything, but I enjoyed it. Wasn't as good as the first one, but I'm a big fan of the first one. So all this time, there's been this, I hate using this term, but this movement, which was, release the Snyder Cut. Now, I think it's important to say at this point that this was a group set up with the best intentions of wanting to see this 4-hour cut of the movie, wanted to see Snyder finish his vision, and put Warner Brothers under pressure essentially to release it. They also did a lot of good. They raised money for suicide prevention charities. I think them uniting as well actually really helped Zack Snyder and his wife Deborah Snyder, who's a producer in the movie, and producer of all his movies actually. I think that really helped them with their grief as well. It showed that there were people united behind them and this wave of emotion and fan movement and so forth. As with any movement, again I hate using that word, but as with any movement, there's always people who take it too far. There's people who do stupid things. There's people who review bomb other movies, so they get bad reviews, give us what we want or we'll wreck the launch of your movie, etc. All that stuff I don't agree with at all. But there were a lot of good people as well who helped this happen. So last year, Zack, he's on a social media platform called Vero, and he seems to be the only one keeping that platform going. But he did a commentary for Man of Steel, and he was sitting at home and he would show storyboards, he would show ideas, talk through the movie. He did it for BVS as well, the extended edition. I rather enjoyed that one. And then at the end of Man of Steel, he essentially said he had a guest, and that guest was Henry Cavill. So he came on to chat about it, and then they had an announcement, and they announced the release of, through HBO Max, Zack Snyder's Justice League. So then various things swirled all over the place. It was always coming out in 2021. It was going to be 4 hours long. Was it going to be split into 4 1-hour parts and released episodically? Was it going to be one big movie? Was it going to get a cinema release? Were cinemas going to be back on track by that point? It's on HBO Max, which is only in America. How is the rest of the world going to see it? All these different things piled up. But eventually we got a final answer, and it was to be released in the middle of March. It would be on HBO Max. It would be a 4-hour movie. And it would be released in different ways all over the world. So in the UK, we got it through Sky Movies. We didn't have to pay anything extra for it. If you were a subscriber to Sky Movies, it was on their premiere channel. I think you could watch it through Now TV and different things over here, but Sky essentially was the home of the Snyder Cup. Then it comes to the day of release. It was it was scheduled to be on there, I think at like 8 in the morning. But then people, not me, I have to say at this point, but people got up early to watch it and then were annoyed because it was replaced by a different movie and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, so I always had this plan with it being released. I would watch Man of Steel, I would watch BVS Extended Edition, and the Snyder Cut all in one day. Vicky was good enough to take the day off work. I just had to provide the snacks. So I bought, nachos, I bought popcorn, I bought cheeses, I bought sandwiches, I bought whiskey, I bought beer, I got all sorts of things just to make it a big event, because that's the thing with this movie. This movie is undoubtedly an event, and it's something we haven't had a lot of in the last year. You know, there's been a lot of negativity around the movie industry. TV is thriving more and more. There's arguably more event TV now than there is event movies. So I wanted to make a big deal of it. My plan to watch those 3 movies was also because I wanted to watch the Snyder Cut when it was dark. You know, there wouldn't be any glare on the TV from the windows or sunlight. It would feel like a cinematic experience. Got your popcorn, got your Coke, and sat down to watch it. So, watched Man of Steel. Took a wee break in the middle actually and read a few comics, including some Superman stuff. Then we watched BVS, and then it was straight into Zack Snyder's Justice League. I probably talked more than I would normally talk through a movie for the first hour of it. And a lot of the reason for that was because I was so angry watching it. Because even in that first hour, you could tell that this was far superior to the piece of crap that got released in 2017. And the more I watched it, and the more I thought about it, you know, I kept pointing out things to Vic. I was like, oh, that stupid line's not in there. That stupid scene's not in there. There's no mustache. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'll get into more detail in a second because I've got a nice wee pad here of my running order when I was watching it. But I was so angry because, you know, when it was over, it was 50-50. I was so angry, but I was so happy. You know, the main takeaway I have from this is that I'm so happy this movie exists. I am so happy that we don't have to go through life wondering and this mythical Snyder Cut that got built up. It's a little rough around the edges in parts. Some of the effects are not quite there, which is understandable given the way it was finished and the way it was put together. And the reason I'm angry about it is because it's hard. This is going to pull out the tinfoil hat brigade, but again, this is just opinion. This is not stating fact. Joss Whedon is a more than capable director. He showed it, you know, and he's at the forefront of a lot of the, you know, geek movement. You know, he created Buffy, he created Firefly. You know, he did the Avengers movies. He's written comics. He's a geek like the rest of us. But it's hard not to think that either he did not care when making his version of this movie, or that he deliberately sabotaged it. And I know those are big words, and that's fine. And again, this is just opinion. But watching the 4-hour Snyder Cut, all I could think was every single moment of hope and heart and heroism was sucked out of that movie. And what we got through Justice League was terrible. You know, and there's certain scenes that are in both movies, but they're framed in different ways. And in the Whedon version, it's hard not to look at the fact he made these characters look stupid. You know, and he never did that with the Marvel Universe. You know, he did nothing but make them look heroic and, you know, larger than life and inspiring. And in this, he just made them look stupid at every opportunity. You know, just a couple of quick examples off the top of my head. You know, Batman was absolutely a joke in Justice League. You know, oh, something's definitely bleeding. You know, that scene at the start on the rooftops where he's chasing down there just happens to be one random parademon in Gotham City. He can barely fight in it. He makes a speech to Barry, oh, save one, just save one, get in and get out. Even at the end, he contributes nothing to the big battle, whereas in this Snyder Cut, he's inspiring, he's trying to learn his lessons from, you know, letting down Superman, he's heroic, he's badass. You know, there's a great line that was in the trailer years ago when it first got, you know, shown at Comic-Con, and it was, you know, I'm real when it's useful. Even the suit itself has been color graded and is a lot darker, rather than, you know, Batman always has to be a darker character, you know what I mean? He can work with the Justice League to a certain degree, but he can't be, you know, all making jokes and blah, blah, blah all the time. So that was one thing. Cyborg, you know, I don't know how much truth there is to all the Ray Fisher allegations. I think it's hard to take sides in that kind of fallout when you don't know what happened. And we don't, you know, there's always 3 sides to a story. There's side 1, side 2, both people's versions, and there's a truth somewhere in the middle. But it's hard not to feel sympathetic for Ray Fisher when you watch the Snyder Cut. And I remember Snyder was asked, what is he most looking forward to people seeing? And he said, the Cyborg scenes, he's the heart of the movie. Now, Cyborg's a character I have no affiliation with whatsoever. I don't think I've read Cyborg outside of, you know, the odd Justice League appearance. But he is incredible in this cut. There's scenes in this that will genuinely move you. It'll show you what it means to be a hero without having to, you know, just go and punch people in the face, so to speak. And he was treated appallingly in Justice League. Wonder Woman was treated badly, you know, scenes with Flash falling on top of her breasts, and the same joke that was made in Age of Ultron with Hulk and Black Widow. Even little things like, you know, the way Ezra Miller's another Marmite actor, and that's fine. But in this, he's so much better. There's more to him, there's more to his relationship with his father. And even a little thing like the way he runs is nowhere near as stupid as it is in that other cut. So it just makes me, it just reeks of sabotage almost, and I hate saying it, but I couldn't get that thought out of my head watching the movie. You know, I've watched Justice League enough times that, you know, I was trying to like it because I'm a DC guy. I'm passionate about these characters. Want to see them done justice, bad pun. And they just aren't in that version of the movie. It is terrible. It's so bad that I always have to turn off the last couple of minutes of it, flick it on the YouTube because someone, a fan, put the restored Hans Zimmer score over the top of it, and it made it somewhat better. So overall, like, this movie is just such an improvement, and it makes me angry because we've now been deprived what could have come afterwards. Now, that being said, I see there's a new movement, you know, restore the Snyderverse. I'm not interested in that. If it came out, I would more than happily watch it. If they brought it out in comic book form, which I think would be a great move, I would happily read it. I don't have the energy to go through it all again. I'm just happy that this cut exists and is widely available and people can actually see what Snyder was trying to do, rather than that awful piece of garbage that came out 2017. So, I've got pages of notes here. I'm going to go through these and just take you through a couple of things I noticed throughout the movie. Yeah, a couple. But I'm just going to point out some of the stuff that was changed, some of the stuff that was made to look stupid, some of the stupid one-liners that were in the original version that aren't in this, and yeah, just everything. So we kick things off. First of all, we don't have a stupid credit sequence. There was a credit sequence put into Justice League that was trying to show how the world was falling apart and how Superman had died. Apparently this involved, in slow motion, someone kicking a fruit cart in the air while a horrified shopkeeper looked on. This is the thing I'll also say, you know, and I'll get into it more as I go through it, but Justice League felt so small. The Avengers always felt big. Age of Ultron felt big. Endgame and Infinity War felt massive. Justice League felt small. The Snyder Cut feels big, it feels epic, and it feels like it wants to go out further than just Earth. But anyway, see, the main first thing that I noticed was, if you go back to Justice League, Batman, or Bruce Wayne, is looking for Arthur Curry, and he basically, there's this one quick shot of him on a snowy mountain, and then suddenly he's in this village, like literally like that. In this version, it actually shows Bruce took 6 days to get there, braved the most painful of conditions, and even when he gets there, like, the villagers don't believe that he came over the mountain. It's like, that's impossible. So straight away, you're making Bruce Wayne and Batman a badass who's determined and driven and just, you know, a cut above a normal person. A couple of stupid lines that weren't in this scene that were in Justice League. I hear you talk to fish. Stupid delivered line, and if you're trying to get someone to join up with you and help you, you're not going to take the mick out of them like that. Then you go outside and it's like, strong man is strongest alone. And Bruce goes, that's not the same. And then, as if that's not enough for you, in Justice League, he goes, that's literally the opposite of the same. We don't need that same information twice. There was a nice wee scene here as well. It was certainly just, you know, dedicated to the Snyder Cut, which was the villagers singing. And it was an interesting scene because it sort of showed the reverence that they have for this hero who comes and helps them and, you know, comes and brings them fish when they're, you know, cornered in and they can't get access to food and stuff like that. Straight away, you're introduced to more Lois Lane in this movie, which again can't be a bad thing. There's more scenes showing Lois's grief. She goes to the site of Superman's burial every day. And interestingly enough, the cop that she brings coffee for every day played Jimmy Olsen in the original Superman movie. So nice wee bit of reverence there. Then you have the scene with Wonder Woman trying to take down these terrorists. And again, in Justice League, this was a really horrible, choppy scene. The Snyder Cut shows Diana to be more dynamic, more action-orientated, but most importantly, more inspiring. You know, the Justice League version ends where the main bad guy goes, I don't believe it, and she goes, or, you know, believe it, and then does that, and then it cuts to another scene. But in this, she saves the day, but then starts checking on people, talking to little girls, are you okay? You know, trying to inspire these people, saying like, you could be anything you want. And that's Diana. She cares after the chaos. But again, none of that in Justice League. You move on then to Steppenwolf going to Themyscira to get his hands on the first of the mother boxes. This scene was a good 1.5 to twice the length of the original Justice League, and it actually shows the Amazons as being capable defenders. Ultimately, Steppenwolf wins out, but he's far more badass in this. He's far more capable, but they're capable of defending it to a point. You know, they put up much more of a fight. So again, a better action scene straight away there. Steppenwolf in general, I mean, the design of Steppenwolf obviously took a lot of headlines for this, and I still don't think it's perfect, but I think it's a lot better. You know, I love the sharpness of the armor. I love when the Amazons pierce him with arrows, the armor closes and snaps those all off. It looks like someone who's built for war and someone who's built for conflict, and that's just such an improvement. The voice work is slightly better as well, and throughout Steppenwolf throughout the whole movie, you can understand his motivation so much more. You know, it's not just a case of, rah, rah, I'm going to come to Earth and conquer and this and that. You know, in this, he's shown to have disappointed Darkseid in the past. He desperately wants to make it up to him. He wants to be a good service to Darkseid. He wants to, you know, be held in good esteem again. And none of that was in the original part. Throw in a little shout out as well for the music at this point. I was glad to see Junkie XL was back. And also some of the Hans Zimmer score was back. You know, the Wonder Woman theme, the Man of Steel theme, that kind of stuff. Far better than the really lazy, phoned-in Danny Elfman track that Joss Whedon, again another Whedon decision, ruined the first movie. Even with Steppenwolf as well, there's far less of this cringy, mother, you know. You go back to Justice League and it's done so many times and done to death, whereas in this, it's the more revered for Darkseid, so again, far better. After he's got the first mother box, he basically picks a version of, essentially it's Chernobyl as his base. And that makes sense for a number of reasons. So this is a place on Earth that is uninhabited, so no one will know to look there. This is a place where, because no one can live there, there's no stupid family of 4 living there. Again, this is one of the worst things Joss Whedon put in this. How the hell did they survive in that landscape? Especially when they talk about the mother boxes sucking up all the sort of negative energy from that site, and why that family's there is just unreal. But this seemed like a real conscious choice in the filmmakers as well, because there was certainly pushback on the fact that, you know, there was so much damage in Man of Steel, there was so much damage in BVS, you know, populated areas. So knowing that this was where the climactic battle was going to take place made more sense, because it's in a desolate area. So, lovely. There's far more Alfred. You see this straight away. You know, there's better scenes with him meeting Bruce at the airport after he talked to Arthur Curry. There's far more of him talking about trying to bring all this team together. Just far more Alfred, never a bad thing. Alfred is always Bruce's conscience, so you need to have more of him there. You're introduced to Rand Choi. There's more Star Lab stuff. There's more stuff with Silas. You get to know those characters a little more. Rand Choi, of course, becomes the Atom. So again, you're expanding that universe slowly as well. But now we have to talk about Cyborg. So Cyborg is a joke of a character in Justice League. In this, he really is the heart of the movie. You know, there's father-son dynamics at play here. You know, there's this great scene where after Victor won't talk to his father leaves like this little dictaphone of a recorded message for him. And he speaks to him in 2 parts. He speaks to him as a scientist and he speaks to him as a father. And the first part is scientist, and by just as he's about to go on to talk about as a father, Victor crushes it and doesn't want to hear it, because his father's let him down all his life. He sees his father as responsible for his mother's death, because if he had been at the football game, his mother wouldn't have been driving, they wouldn't have been distracted, etc., etc. But you jump into more and more Cyborg stuff here. I mean, the scene alone where he starts to understand his abilities in terms of like he is clearly the most powerful person in this movie. Like, he has the ability to change anything in the world. Monetary, electronic, nuclear. But that scene where he essentially sees this woman who's a waitress, working hard, she's a good mother, she cares for her kids, she's always there, she's a hard worker, and he's able to change her life by just topping up her money that little bit in her, and say it's like a bank bonus sort of thing. That scene was incredible, and all of that, A, it was so heartfelt, and B, it was so heroic, and it was heroic without throwing a punch. But it shows the difference these heroes and these abilities can make to the world. Then you jump on to a little bit of the stuff with Diana and the secret history of the Amazons, the secret history of Darkseid. This was great. This was very Tomb Raider-y and very Indiana Jonesy, which I loved. You know, she takes the arrow, goes beneath the tomb, slides the arrow in. There's all these cave paintings and shows how Darkseid has been to Earth before. You know, you've got great stuff with Aquaman, with his entrance, saving the fisherman. He looks bigger, he looks epic. You know, that scene alone after he drops the fisherman back to the pub and then he walks out to the edge and then the seas just collapse in on him. Like, that was always in the trailers and it wasn't in the final movie. So, beyond me why you do that. But then you've got more backstory here for Arthur as well. You know, you've got Vulko in here with Willem Dafoe. You've got more stuff about how he's turned his back on Atlantis and, you know, his bad feelings towards his mother, who he thinks abandoned him. So there's far more of Arthur here as well, rather than literally just he goes to this tiny entrance. Like, if you go back to Justice League, he literally goes down and they attack and they take the mother box and that's it. But anyway, you have some really cool stuff with Darkseid, you know, the communications with Apocalypse, with Steppenwolf consistently updating everyone back on Apocalypse, and Darkseid is essentially the intermediary between him and Darkseid, and he can update him of his process. That was really, really cool. I threw this note in here, but this is further on in Justice League, but this is another thing that really bugged me. And it was when they were arguing over whether to bring Superman back to life. And Bruce makes a really, really cheap dig at Diana about Steve Trevor dying. Holy crap, that is not the kind of thing Batman would say, or Bruce would say to Diana. Just wouldn't do it. Especially when they're trying to be united as a team to save the world. But that whole line, all that scene is not even in this movie. So you had a bigger, better Age of Heroes sequence. So you had all the stuff from when Darkseid first attacked Earth. Obviously in Justice League, you had Steppenwolf being the person there rather than Darkseid. So instantly it felt bigger with Darkseid in it. There was more action to it. You know, there was great Green Lantern stuff in there, which there was a wee bit of in Justice League, in fairness. But yeah, it just felt like a much better, bigger scene. You know, it reminded me of something more like Lord of the Rings rather than a DC movie or a Marvel movie, you know. You then get jumped into, you then get introduced to Barry Allen. And again, Ezra Miller, you either like him or you don't, I think. I'm a big fan of Grant Gustin, what he does on the TV show Flash. But I kind of liked what they did with Ezra Miller a bit more here. You know, him being interviewed at the pet shop. Of course, he's late, a great trait of Barry Allen, despite being the fastest man on the planet. He had a great demonstration of his powers where he saves someone who we know to be Aris. I was slightly worried when he grabbed like a hot dog, thinking he was, you know, going to eat that later. But he actually used that in a way to show how he was good with animals to get a job. So again, I thought that was quite fun. You have a great scene actually with the parademons interrogating, and then Steppenwolf interrogating Atlanteans. So again, you're starting to see the links here where you understand why Steppenwolf was able to find out where the different mother boxes are. He didn't know where it was in Atlantis. He didn't know the way to Atlantis. In Justice League, he just turns up there. Whereas in this, he uses this little mechanical spider that can read minds. It's not too far away from Starro, you know, which is interesting. But he basically abducts a couple of Atlanteans and finds out where the mother box is. So again, that's good stuff. Yeah, more stuff with Lois and her grief, that Man of Steel music. You really feel her pain for losing Clark. Another couple of quips that I noticed aren't anywhere to be found. Again, going back to Flash. There's no nonsense about brunch. There's no nonsense about Pet Cemetery. All these stupid lines that were in that original movie that weren't funny in any way and were really out of character and really stupid, totally absent here as well. So what else have we got? We've got, yeah, all the Cyborg stuff was great. You know, the mother he helped, but then it's all about pushing himself. It's all about the exploration of his powers. And something I really noticed about this, and it's really interesting, certainly with, you know, unfortunately Zack Snyder's, you know, daughter passing away. there's a lot of exploration of parent-child relationships in this. You know, of course, you have Bruce, you know, never got over the grief of losing his parents, became Batman. You've got Wonder Woman in it, worried about her mother. You know, at one point later on in the movie, Steppenwolf says how he killed her, which he didn't. But there's exploration stuff there. You've got Barry and his father obviously being in jail. And him trying to, even though his dad's in jail, he's still his hero. You've got all the exploration between Victor and Silas and that bond that's been broken but is slowly being repaired. You've got the Mother Arthur issues as well with Aquaman. You know, this is all really, really interesting stuff. And you can see how these characters come together. And then, of course, you have Superman, who, you know, had the links to his dad and then has a great reunion scene later on with his mum. Going back to Flash as well, another thing missing. And again, in Justice League, it essentially showed Barry to be a bully, which is a scene where he's standing in line to go to prison to see his dad. And some guy behind him says, "Oh, can you hurry up?" And Barry basically draws all over his face really quickly. Again, it just shows him to be a petty bully, for lack of a better term. But again, that scene's not here. You have a really cool wee scene actually between Diana and Alfred, where Diana's looking for Cyborg. And it sort of all goes into how to make tea properly. I thought that was quite fun. Another little Easter egg I noticed was that when Gordon is talking to another cop in Gotham PD, he says Crispus. That made me think of Crispus Allen from Gotham Central. It made me really, really happy. You know, there's even a little explanation. You know, I'm going through the movie sequentially as much as I can, but there's even a really good explanation about why Steppenwolf's able to get to the Mother Box relatively easy in Atlantis, and it's because Orn is still fighting with the surface world, and Orn has redeployed so many troops elsewhere that essentially they've left that part of the light. So I thought that was really, really interesting. Great line from Diana where, you know, Steppenwolf and her are about to fight, and Steppenwolf's like, "This one's mine." She's like, "I belong to no one." It's a great, great line. Again, you've no stupid scene here where Batman says to Barry, "Oh, save one, get in, get out. If you save one, you've made a difference." No, Flash and Cyborg actually lead all of the hostages out in one go. Imagine that. Imagine a hero being heroic and trying to save everybody. There's better music again here, chatting about the score by Junkie XL. There's better music as Flash passes the sword back to Diana. Another part that was, again, in Justice League that wasn't in this now, and this annoys me more the more I think about it because it doesn't follow sequential storytelling. But when the Justice League first turn up underneath Gotham in the reservoirs or in the aqueducts, they see Steppenwolf there and they see some parademons and all this, and there's a fight sequence. Batman ends up getting into his big massive robot spidery thing, for lack of a better term. Night something, it'll come to me. But anyway, when he gets into that, and then Steppenwolf jumps on top, there's a part in Justice League where he goes, "Jesus, he's big." He's already seen him. Why would he then say, "Jesus, he's big"? It also makes Batman sound scared, which is the Nightcrawler. There we go. It also makes Batman sound like he's scared, but he's not. He goes into this thing face first. Again, just another stupid thing that wasn't noticed. Little mention of the anti-life equation, and then we're starting to get Darkseid type stuff here as well. You first see him through the well, you obviously saw him in the flashback sequence, but you see him through the communication tool to talking to Steppenwolf. So again, really good stuff here. And again, Steppenwolf's in awe of Darkseid. You know, his armor gets taken off and he looks, you know, so naked in front of him almost, you know. So then you've got a little scene, really nice scene between Martha and Lois, again talking about Clark. But this turns out to be a really nice wee Easter egg scene where it was actually Martian Manhunter shape-shifting into Martha to check in on Lois. And that kind of strengthens the bond between General Stanwyck and Lois, because they've always got on love-hate relationship to a degree, but they certainly care about each other through the previous two movies. There's then a really good scene in the Star Labs facility where Silas has figured out that it's a false alarm that's getting everybody to leave. That's so the Justice League can come in. But then he sees Victor with a mother box and with the rest of the Justice League. And he basically says, "No, it's not a drill. Everybody needs to get out." It's a great moment where he's showing that he trusts his son. It's not this huge "I forgive you" moment or anything like that. but it's a big moment where he is trusting his son and he gets out of there, and he even makes sure when he gets out that everyone leave the facility. You got an interesting little side scene here with Lois. You see her taking a pregnancy test. That wasn't brought up the rest of the movie, so I'm guessing again set up for further stuff further along. I want to go back to what I was saying as well about Joss Whedon making some of these characters look stupid. So there's a scene in Justice League, and it's kind of a different take on the same scene here, but it's where they use the mother box to bring Superman back to life. And there's a part in Justice League where Flash runs past the rest of them and they're all standing there. And there's these quick flashes of light and showing the characters while they stand there. And the characters look terrible. They look really wooden. They look really confused by what's going on. There's none of that here. It's literally Flash gets the speed, gets it going. There's a small little demonstration about how you can turn back time, that tiny little bit as well. So then you jump on from here, you move on to Superman is back. So this beautiful scene where, you know, because it's been established that Lois comes to the memorial every day, and therefore it's natural that she should be there, and she just sees Superman hanging in the sky. So straight away this takes away from the stupid idea that Bruce has to go and send Alfred to go and get Lois and her to turn up at just the right moment. That's just so convenient it's such lazy writing, as opposed to the setup of Lois is there and she's naturally there. She's like everyone else, you know, she sees Superman hanging in the sky and she knows that Clark's back alive. Then we come to, thank God this was not in the movie, because it was one of the worst parts of Justice League. And again, it's hard not to think that this was deliberately trying to sabotage and take the mick out of previous movies. So it's bad enough they did these reshoots with Henry Cavill and mustache gate and really fake looking face and this and that. But there's a scene where he grabs Batman by the jaw and says, "Do you bleed?" Absolutely awful scene, so it is. And then it leads to them Batman lying in the ground going, "Oh, something's definitely bleeding." Again, making these characters look weak. None of that is here again. So again, it's much more organic of a scene, much more natural. There's a better, longer fight / chase scene here between Superman and the Flash as well. You also have the setup of Alfred working on these gauntlets for Bruce that absorb energy, and he's able to use that to protect himself against Superman. Again, showing that he's had time to think how he will deal with these threats, because Batman's always prepared. So again, better. You have a car going straight for a cop that's going to kill him. Cyborg saves him, again showing that heroics. And that goes back, actually, you know, talking about the Superman reshoots. There's no terrible scene at the start of Superman being interviewed by these two kids on a cheap looking cell phone. What do you like most about the world of Superman? And again, it's that stupid sort of weird jaw where you can tell they did bad CGI. And even when Superman is approaching Batman here, you know, he's obviously confused. He obviously remembers bad things towards him and wants to hurt him. Batman stands his ground. So again, he's badass. He's Batman. But then you get the emotion of that Clark-Lois reunion. And again, this is another heart of the movie for me, and another thing that was massively underdone in Justice League. You know, I go back to, there was this great trailer for Justice League before it came out, and it kicked off with this scene of Clark standing in the cornfield, and he's wearing a shirt very reminiscent of what Christopher Reeve wore back in Superman. And he says, "I take that as a yes." And Lois goes, "What? The ring." That scene gets reinserted here. That scene was not in Justice League. Again, you're ripping all the heart and emotion out of the movie. It's getting me angry the more I talk about it. What else have we got here? Yeah, then there's the crash site. So the third mother box. In Justice League, it's literally as they're distracted, trying to sort out Superman, Steppenwolf beams in, grabs their mother box, leaves. Done. That's it. In this, they actually try to stop him. There's actually a fight scene. There's a chance to defend it. There's also a reason where, with the third mother box, there's this great scene with Silas where he tries to use this laser on the mother box. And of course, you're thinking, oh, he's trying to destroy it, but he wasn't. He was marking it. He was superheating it so that they could actually find out where Steppenwolf was going with the boxes and track him down. Again, you see the links of story here. You see how it organically goes from one place to another with it. So you have this great, you know, sequence, you know, his dad's died. And again, you even have these great reflective moments where, you know, Arthur's talking about, like, you know, the kid just had to watch his dad die, and now we're asking him to help save the world, and again, all this kind of stuff. What else have we got? So again, you've got, Martha turning up and being reunited with Clark. This great scene with all three of them hugging, again, all that emotion. Another stupid Whedonism where Bruce takes the rest of the Justice League to the Batcave, and you have Flash zipping around going, it's like some sort of a cave, a Batcave. It's really over the top, really stupid, really out of place. None of that's in here as well. There's no scene with Aquaman sitting on the lasso telling Wonder Woman she's gorgeous. Oh, look at you. You're gorgeous. Like, you're unbelievable. None of that crap's in here as well. And then you get all these goosebump-inducing moments being put in here. Clark walking through the Kryptonian ship, all the suits coming out. And you have the combination of his two fathers' voices in his head, talking about how he was sent here for a reason. Talking about how, they will follow you in the sun. Mankind will unite behind you. All this stuff is so good, and none of it was in Justice League. So then we're getting to the big massive fight sequence at the end. So straight away, this looks better for one big reason. Whatever way they color graded Justice League, they had this red sky, and it just did nothing but look false, look green screen. It just looked like there was nothing there. There was no weight to anything. So they get rid of that here, and it's just a natural dark sky. And straight away, the sequence is better. So straight away, you have Batman leading the way of getting them inside using his nice new toy. That was the only thing I will say. This was a little silly in this. There's all this big deal made about this people carrier that Bruce is trying to get going. And then Cyborg is like, oh, she wants to fly. And then they use it, and then it's crashed like about a minute and a half. But it serves its purpose. It breaks down the barriers and gets them in to be able to face Steppenwolf. So again, you've Batman being a badass here. He gets out of that into the Batmobile. There's great action here. And then you get to this point, and again, this actually gave me goosebumps. And again, I don't understand if this stuff was shot, why Joss Whedon did not use this stuff. Joss Whedon is great at the hero shot. You think back to the Avengers, where in New York, it has that great spinning sequence around all the characters as they're united. You go back to Age of Ultron, where they're fighting in Sokovia. And again, there's this great 360 scene showing what all the Avengers are doing and what they're battling. You have a moment here where, as Bruce is taking down parademons, the roof gets ripped off the Batmobile. And then just as two of them are about to reach in, Wonder Woman comes in and takes them down. And then she backs up behind them, and the car's going forward. And you have the other members of the Justice League beside. You have Cyborg flying. You have Wonder Woman going through the air. You have Aquaman and Flash there, sorry. And it sort of pauses for a half second, and it's just goosebump-inducing heroics. It's like a comic panel come to life. And again, if this was shot already, why was this not used? Astounds me. And again, the music here is great, and it again reinforces the idea of why the score is better. You don't have the stupid line from Cyborg when he catches Aquaman going, ride's not over yet. Again, stupid. I can't say it enough as a Batman fan. I can't say it enough how much Batman is a badass in this. He is capable of taking down parademons. He is capable of helping the rest of them, letting them do the things they need to do. He's like, I'll be at the ground level. I'll take down the parademons. I'll take down the parts where they're big, massive guns, all that kind of thing. Also, he's clearly played Halo, because as soon as he gets onto one of those big guns and starts taking down parademons. You have a great scene with Superman and Alfred. Let's hope you're not too late. Again, being reinstated from that original trailer. And then Superman, this is a big key difference here for me in this movie as well. Superman arrives not to just turn up and go, I'm here, I'll take care of this, don't you worry, you guys are useless. He arrives to make them all better. He doesn't just show up and do everything himself effortlessly. He basically inspires them to be better versions of themselves. They're lagging a little bit in the fight, and it brings them back up, and they all work together as a team. Cyborg and Superman separate the boxes. They have Flash there to help separate the boxes. They have Aquaman and Diana holding off Steppenwolf. They have Batman holding out everything in the perimeter outside. They work as a team. And none of this is in Justice League. It's literally Superman turns up, smile on his face, I'm a big fan of justice, and punches a few things and it's over. Then you have the portal opening, you get to see Darkseid, you get to see Apocalypse, you get to see Darkseid, you get to see Granny Goodness, all this great comic book stuff, all this world building, showing that there is a bigger world out there to be explained. Again, excellent. But then you have the next goosebump inducing moment, and this is something I wasn't expecting at all, because I avoided all the trailers going in. I knew I was going to watch it. And the scene of where they go, it's too late, and then Barry thinks, I can enter the Speed Force, I can reverse time. And as everything's being destroyed, Barry's able to run back through, and he reforms everything as he runs through. And again, there's this big epic music score the whole way through as he just remakes everything. Superman gets brought back, Cyborg, you see him come towards him, and then they separate the mother boxes. That whole scene was incredible. Absolutely incredible. And then, then Victor enters this sort of weird place between life and death where he sees himself with his mom and dad, and they're like, oh, you're all fixed, you can come back here and you can be with us. And again, Victor is accepting who he is and that he's not broken, he's not alone. Again, wonderful, wonderful stuff. And then it's Diana who deals the final blow, cutting off Steppenwolf's head. The head goes through the portal, falls at the feet of Darkseid. It's not just Superman turning up and doing everything. Even with all of Superman's powers, he couldn't, turn back time the way Flash did and reform all that. He couldn't separate the mother boxes on his own. He needed Cyborg to do that. So again, it's that they're all working as a team. Imagine that. You've got no stupid regrowing flowers. Again, I go back to it. There's no stupid saving one family in Chernobyl. Why would they be there? Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. You have the great hero shots, Superman in the black suit, just beautiful, beautiful stuff. So we come towards the end of the movie, and you'll probably be glad to know we're coming towards the end of my notes. As you can tell, I'm quite passionate about this. But yeah, you've got Victor remaking the dictaphone to listen to his father, speaking to him as a father. This is a much more fitting ending voiceover than Lois in the first one, which is just a really generic, heroes are here, blah, blah, blah. We know heroes are here in this world. Superman's been in this world for nearly 2 years. Batman's been there for 20 years. Go figure. But yeah, again, every hero again gets their moment. Victor accepts who he is. Arthur's healing the bonds with Atlantis, and he's chatting to Mira at the end, and he's talking about chatting to his father and trying to move forward. You've got Barry getting the job at the crime lab. You've got Ran Choi moving up in Star Lab, so again you're setting up world building there for the Atom. You've got Bruce wanting to form the Hall of Justice in the ruins of Wayne Manor. You've got the Kent farm reclaimed, and again there's a line here of Bruce going, I bought the bank. And in the Justice League, there's an extra line of, oh, it's kind of like a reflex. That is not who that character is. Anyway, you have the Bat Tank. And also, if you look at the backgrounds very closely, it kind of looks like he's been involved in a battle in sort of a mosh pit. Just a wee Dark Knight's Return reference, no more than that. You've got Diana thinking about returning to her people in Themyscira. You've got Clark taking the glasses off, revealing the S. And then you're moving into some stuff that is a slight variation of what you saw at the end of Justice League, which was Luthor escaping Arkham. This one's done in a little bit more of a creepier way. You then have the scene of him on the boat with Deathstroke. But again, the dialogue's slightly different as Lex Luthor reveals Batman's identity. So again, that was going to lead to the Ben Affleck Batman movie. And then we come to the end of the movie, and one of the most talked about scenes for the movie that is so bittersweet, it's unreal. And bittersweet because what it sets up is mind-boggling, it's fantastic. But we're never going to see it. Unless they release a comic or something, as I say. So of course I'm talking about the Nightmare sequence. Mad Max meets the DC Universe is what it looks like to me. You've got this team of Batman, Cyborg, Mira, Deathstroke, Flash, and Joker. And Batman and Bruce's fears have become true. The most powerful man on Earth, Superman, has ultimately turned his back on humanity, and we get this sense it's because Lois died, and Superman therefore becomes evil. Got this great sequence between Batman and Joker, this great little tete-a-tete between the two of them. And I saw an interesting thing on Twitter. It was Dan Slott, who I'm a big fan of. I love Dan Slott's work. Silver Surfer run, outstanding. Done loads of great stuff. Great writer, one of the best in the business. But there's a part here where Batman says, and excuse the language, but I'm just quoting the movie, "I will fucking kill you." And Dan Slott says that's not Batman, because swearing is a sign of weakness and Batman wouldn't need to do that. What I would argue is, in this moment that they've set up in this nightmare sequence, he's at his weakest. He's essentially, he's talked throughout the movie about having faith and hope and all this kind of stuff. But in the end, what he feared would happen, happened. He's had Robins die. His former best friend has now turned evil against the rest of humanity. He's having to, hook up with a Joker and Deathstroke just to fight his battles. He's at his weakest moment here, so why wouldn't that be justified? Anyway, just love that. Again, you've little interesting ideas here. Where's Diana, for example? Arthur's already been mentioned as, dead or incapacitated in some way. Mira says, "I'll kill him for what they did to Arthur." And then you have another little scene after that, which is an interesting little stinger to finish with Martian Manhunter. They talk about the anti-life equation. They talk about Darkseid. And the League is growing. They have a new member. I will say in this scene, it's obvious that this was shot later because Ben Affleck's about half the size. But I can't help but think I would love to see more Affleck Batman. And then we come to the end, and he always said he was going to end the movie with Hallelujah, which of course led to lots of people taking the mick and all the rest. But it's sort of a lyricless version, and it's dedicated to his daughter, which the whole movie is, so for Autumn. So there you go. That is my deep dive into the Snyder Cut. I'm sure I will notice more and more things as I watch it again, and again, and again. Again, I go back to it. I'm really happy this movie exists. That Justice League is terrible. It really is an awful movie, and it's choppy. It's not a good representation of the characters. It has bad music. It has bad action. And again, this feels like BVS all over again, where I will say to people, "No, but you got to watch this version. It's twice the length, but it's a better movie." And at the end of the day, it's up to you if you want to watch it. I'm not going to sit here and try and convince you otherwise, but for me, I'm glad it exists. I loved every second of it. I think if it had got it, you have to judge it as well a little bit in that it's a 4-hour movie, but it's a very unique movie. It's not designed for theatrical audience. It was being put together as a project of passion for the fans, and it was being put together for, let's be honest, the last year. We've mostly been stuck indoors. It's for home consumption. And therefore, I think that there are little bits of fat here and there. You could trim off it, tighten it up a bit. But if this was going to be our last dip into that universe, with all the players in place, I was happy for it to be 4 hours. And 4 hours whizzed by. So that's what I'll say. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Feel free to disagree with me, agree with me, whatever. I feel this is a movie that definitely deserves discussion. And I really look forward to getting the store back open again and having people sit around and hanging out, chatting about their favourite parts, chatting what didn't work for them, and getting a good discussion going again. So I will just say I'm so glad it exists, and I'll look forward to the inevitable 4K Blu-ray release. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'm sure there'll be another YouTube video on before too long. But in the meantime, enjoy the Snyder Cut. Take it easy.